So, welcome to Collegiate Conversations. This is a space for conversations of all shapes and sizes coming out of the Collegiate Church Network. Today, we're talking about health. This is a conversation we've been having with a few other people, and this is health, being healthy and pursuing healthy habits in all ways of life, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and across the board. And today, we get to talk with Joe Testa, and we brought him in to share about ways that he's pursued health and resting, particularly with his love of fishing. So, Joe, if you could just introduce yourself, maybe share where you serve, how long you've been there. We'll start with that.
Great. Thanks for having me, Mike. This is a topic I'm really passionate about. Not just fishing, but really health, especially pastors and missionaries being healthy. I see a lot of burnout, and I feel really sad about that because there are things I think God wants us to pursue to be able to be healthy, and I think it actually will influence and positively affect our ministry, and even make us even more effective with what we do when we pursue kind of healthy avenues of refreshment
Yeah.
and recreation. So I work on Michigan State's campus. I work with a church called New Hope, and I've been with New Hope since 2016. I've been with Collegiate for 23 years. I worked on staff at U of I, University of Illinois, for a couple years, and then helped plant a church at Illinois State, then moved to Michigan State to help with establishing a ministry with Riverview, and then had a transition from Riverview to New Hope in 2016, 2017. And really my story, I don't know if you want me to go into this, but
Yeah,
my
go
story,
for it.
I got saved as a freshman in college. And really after I got saved, I kind of gave up fishing. In fact, give you a little more background. Before that, I grew up fishing. My passion for fishing started when I was probably 3 or 4 with my grandpa. We'd sit on his dock in Florida, and we would just have a blast. I mean, we didn't even really have reels. I think we just had cane poles with line on them, and we just would bring fish in, and we'd keep them in a bucket. And the next day, we'd feed pelicans. And I remember the smell of like the dead fish, and it was just a really cool experience overall. So that started when I was young, and kind of developed. I didn't really develop in like leaps and bounds, because when I was growing up, I didn't have a boat, so I kind of felt like there were some limitations to what I could and couldn't do. And so I spent a lot of time fly fishing as a younger person, like my middle school, high school years. And then when I got saved as a freshman in college, I kind of decided to put it on the back burner, because I really saw, I thought of it as kind of just unspiritual. And I thought, I need to be effective. I need to be kind of focused. The kingdom of God's coming, and I want to make a difference. I don't want to have like just this worldly kind of thing that kind of keeps me from being all about Jesus. And then I think it was a couple years into my staff experience that I remember just feeling dizzy, because I was
Mm,
working, 60 hours a week, and I just I just didn't have much of an outlet for refreshment. And so I met a guy when I was raising support who kind of reintroduced me to fishing, and he really taught me a whole bunch of new things and kind of got me started back into that world of kind of exploring and growing and learning. And really, that's what I love about it. I think I love just the whole idea of learning and growing and just kind of developing, and being able to talk about that with other people, building relationships with other people through that, and kind of a shared experience as well. So that's kind of, I guess, bringing you up to maybe this point in my life. I really just feel like it's a gift from God. And in addition to that, for me, it's been a real significant point of connection with people. I'm 44. My hair is starting to fade. I really still love working with young people. I had to think creatively about what can I do to build some bridges into their world. And really, I've just thought, like, how do I use some of the things I'm passionate about to kind of do that with
yeah.
people? So,
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that, Joe.
but
So, just for you personally, what was that like reconnecting with fishing? Like what was that like what sort of helped you click like, oh, this is more than just a hobby. There is something spiritual and refreshing for yourself there.
well, okay. So, like, what I would do, I would take a day, maybe a day a month. And at that point, probably when I started kind of reconnecting, I think I might have had one child. And, so those were like really busy days when our kids were really little. But I'd take like one day a month ish, and I'd just travel up to visit a friend. And this guy and I would fish all day. And a lot of times I'd drive up like either the night before, spend the night, and then fish all day and then drive home. And well, I think what made it really significant for me is that the whole experience was physically exhausting, but emotionally it was so life-giving. And so I'd come back and I'd be drained physically, but I'd be recharged emotionally. And it just gave me something in my soul that I just, I felt like I really needed. And that was the beginning of that. And I think, again, the learning process was significant in that too. I started actually ice fishing with this guy, which I grew up just doing some ice fishing with very little success. But what this guy taught me is he taught me a lot about how to be successful catching fish. And I mean, that was really what kind of hooked me, again, no pun intended. But so we, so like that was part of the process, I think, of just kind of, re-engaging with, if you will, the sport, or just the idea of kind of this hobby. And I think from there it kind of just continued to develop and grow. And I kind of got way more serious about it even when I moved to Michigan, because there's all kinds of awesome resources in Michigan. Illinois is a little bit more thin on those resources, but Michigan has a lot to offer. And so um, I met some guys here. I felt like they mentored me in this area of fishing, and my hope and with those people that were mentoring me was that I'd get a chance to kind of turn around and share the gospel with them. And some of them I did, and some of them I haven't had a chance to do that with. Um, and now I've got a chance to be that to other people as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. So I grew up fishing. I haven't done it in a while, but I understand the words you're sharing on different types of fishing. It might be helpful for some of our collegiate people just to give a brief introduction to fishing,
Okay.
right? Like I imagine people have a picture of
Yeah.
this is what it looks like, or Jesus talks about casting a net. We're not really talking about that. Maybe share the types of fishing you're into and
Okay.
distinguish
Sure.
those.
Sure. So, I mean, there really is a lot of different things you could think of when you think of fishing. Um, what I did growing up was fly fishing, which is kind of like you don't need a boat to do that. A lot of times you're wading, you're walking a river. Maybe you've seen the river runs through it, or a movie like that, and it's in this beautiful setting, and you're fishing with like all artificials. There's nothing that's alive or real, and you're kind of like matching exactly what the fish are eating. And so that was really fun for me growing up. We would spend our whole summers kind of doing that. But I really, I still enjoy doing that. I love fly fishing. Um, but I really love the idea of actually like being on a boat, and kind of, it just gives you so many more opportunities. And so what I do a lot now is I fish on a boat. Majority of the time. And, I've owned a boat for a little while now. I think I probably bought my first boat in like 2003 or 2004. And again, there's some costs involved with this. I mean, we're not talking about like, um, you know, getting something for nothing. For me, I've invested resources into this, and it's really, again, been, I think, very much has paid dividends in my life. So then, like, if there's fly fishing is one type of fishing, ice fishing is another type, where you're actually like drilling a hole through through the ice, and you're fishing vertically, and you have to keep drilling holes in order to kind of fish or to cover ground. And then on a boat, I mean, we can really geek out, but Mike, there's like, I mean, the technology that we have now to fish with, it's just ridiculous. Like, I can see how the fish are interacting with my lures based on the electronics I'm using. And we have mapping software, and, I can tell you what the bottom contours are on the lake. I mean, it's just really ridiculous. So like, but I think really, again, the point is, this is something that has just deeply refreshed me. And I know guys that fish that are pastors and collegiate that don't have all this stuff, and they still get a lot of refreshment out of it. My friend Mike Clunky is one of those. He owns a kayak. He does a lot of kayak fishing, and it's very simple and yet very rewarding. Actually own a kayak too, and I do some kayak fishing as well. And so, there's a ton we could talk about, but I don't want to get too far off the
Yeah,
topic.
no, that's good. That's good. So what What do you think about it like really connects with you? Is it everything about it? Because I hear on one hand you're talking about being out in the middle of nowhere and being with people and being refreshed. On the other hand, I hear you geeking out about how detailed you can get into the hunt of the fish almost. What really connects to you?
That's really good. I do think it's a little bit about putting this puzzle together where you are trying to figure out, okay, one of the main things that you have to figure out is where are the fish first. You can't catch fish if they're not there. And then you have to figure out, how do I actually convince them to do something? Now, some of the fishing that we do, like the fish are actually really active, but a lot of times they're not active. And so you're kind of getting a reaction out of them. And so I think a lot of it is just that puzzle. It's like when you figure that out, it is so exciting. And yeah, the fish have a brain the size of a pea, and so we're trying to outsmart this little, I don't know, this cold-blooded creature. But there's just something that's really fun about that. And I think even doing that with other people, it's a shared experience.
Yeah,
So when I take a friend and they have a great experience, I just think, oh, it's so much fun to see people enjoy that. I know I fished with Joel Vanderskel over there at U of M, and he's a good fisherman, but he's learned things with me, and he's developed his skill with me, and I've learned things from him too as we're kind of on the boat together. I think that's part of it too. Is you're kind of constantly learning. You're putting together these little data points, and you're like, whoa, you just caught a fish doing that, and you're like, you just kind of file that in the back of your mind, and you're like, I'm going to keep that for the future because there'll be a day when that'll be helpful in what I'm trying to do. And so I love taking my kids fishing. I love taking students fishing. I've even kind of got a little bit of a side hustle going as a fishing guide. And so I do that on my vacation time. And that's been really encouraging. Again, I connect with a lot of people that aren't Christians that way. And we just have built a lot of good relationships. This summer I had some time where I was guiding, and I took a lot of Orthodox Jews out. I had a chance to talk to them a lot about their perspective about the Hebrew Bible, our Old Testament. And, it was just a very kind of a natural conversation. You're just standing there fishing. It just leaves a lot of space to have a relationship.
that's really
So, yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. So I've only heard you speak, really positive things about it. Has there ever been a point in your love of fishing that maybe the balance got out of whack and it wasn't
Oh,
refreshing?
oh yeah. And it was really interesting. It was like, it was several years ago. And it was that it really is interesting because it kind of was around ice fishing, and I became so passionate about it that I felt like I was kind of burning myself out. And so what I really have been thinking about a lot, even in that passion, is that anything can become an idol. We read a book recently by Tim Keller about idolatry, and really anything can become an idol. Like even ministry can become an idol. So in some ways, even having an outlet like this actually kind of safeguards us, so we realize we're not that important. So, like, by
Hmm,
us getting a stepping away from pastoring or our role in ministry, we kind of remember how small we really are. And I think that's been helpful. Honestly, I don't know, if I always have complete clarity about, seeing myself clearly, but like my self-awareness, I think some of this stuff has helped me move in a more of a path of humility
hmm.
too. Just because I realized that, like, I, I don't need to build a ministry around me. I'm not that important in a healthy sense. Like, I mean, um, and yet at the same time, I feel like God's using me, and the things that He's developed in my life are things that I can pass on to other people. So it's kind of a good balance. And I think fishing and just having a place to recreate has really allowed me to do that.
Yeah, it's really good. That's really good perspective. So I'd be remiss, fishermen are known for their fish stories. Do you have any, just like, what are like a couple just of your, like, these were great tales of catching or just maybe just being with people?
Oh man. Okay, so this fall I took Micah, my son. He's 18, and he does a lot. He's my first mate. One of the best fishermen you'll ever meet in your life. He's probably, I mean, there's definitely times when he's surpassed me, which I'm really excited about. We had two experiences this year that have been really fun to think about. We went out on Grand Traverse Bay, which is just outside of uh, Traverse City, and we actually had never fished the bay before. So we went out there and we just kind of looked at a map and we said, let's go try this spot. And we went out there and he outfished me 10-1. We were really trying to catch a specific fish called a smallmouth bass. And we didn't catch any, but he caught lake trout and we caught these fish called ciscos, which was really cool. And they're like a kind of like a whitefish and they're delicious to eat. And so the one lake trout he caught was just massive and we let it go. It was probably 10 or 12 pounds. It was a beautiful fish. And I'm going, what the heck, man? I taught you how to fish. Like, how are you out fishing me? And he had exactly what I thought he should have on, and he just crushed me. And then this fall we had another time where we went out and we were fishing for walleyes up north, and we had a moment where like in like an hour and a half we'd caught our limit, which it was just a really good day. And they weren't real big fish, but it was just the whole feel of it. As my kids get older, we don't have as many of these times together, so I really cherished that time we had. And we just enjoyed. We usually don't keep a lot of fish. We try to be really conservation minded. That day we actually did keep a 2-man limit, which it didn't hurt the lake at all. But we love to eat fish. We're having fish tonight actually, and we're having a friend over to enjoy fish together. So there's been a couple of them. I mean, we've had a lot of good experiences over the last 10 or 12 years, and it'd be hard to document a lot of them. But yeah, they're fun memories too. And a lot of times I'll look at pictures that I have on my phone and they just bring back like, oh man, that was so refreshing to be there. And or I'll see somebody that had we had some experiences this summer too where we got to connect with people who really needed some refreshment in their life. Like we had a couple of single moms that we took out, and the single moms, these people are heroes. They had one of the gals, she had 4 kids, and her second oldest child had a pretty severe disability. He was kind of mild to low functioning autism, and I mean he could barely kind of reel the reel in when he caught a fish. But every time he caught a fish, he would just kind of get really, really excited. And I didn't know how this was going to go. When we started, I thought, God, I'm going to need your help today. Feels overwhelming. And by the end of the day, I was like, this is like one of my favorite memories of 2020. Just this kid who I kind of fell in love with this young guy. I mean, just because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I don't get to work with a lot of people with disabilities. And I became his cheerleader every time, I was in his corner. And I think the mom, what my hope was, is she left just a little bit more encouraged that like for at least this window of time, like somebody else kind of lifted her burden, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, Joe, it's so clear that this is so much more than going fishing.
Oh,
Like you can't, it's the combination of people and just loving being with people. I think every story you've shared so far has been, yeah, it's about connecting with people and different things like that. And even hearing the roots of it go back to, you got the fishing doing with your grandfather.
oh,
And
right.
then the guy during support raising who reintroduced you to it. And
Totally.
I love just hearing that your energy is just as much for people as it is for fishing, and that's really beautiful.
I don't really even enjoy going by myself that much. I mean, I will go every once in a while by myself, but a lot of the times I've actually passed up opportunities because I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to go by myself. If my kids are busy or whatever, I might choose to do something different. Um, I might call a couple friends in town here, and if they're not available, I might be like, I got other things I need to do. So that has also been a good check and balance for me, is when I know that I don't have to do this. It's not like my life. It's something that God's given me to enjoy, and that's, I think, again, a very healthy balance for me. If I feel like it's just all I ever do and all I ever want to do, I don't know, I would be concerned about that. And again, for me, a lot of this has become more of like, how do I connect with younger people? How do I connect with people in general? You play the pastor card and people are like, I don't really want to know if I want to do anything with you. And then you play the fishing card and people are like, oh, let's talk. So So really it's become kind of a strategic part of the mission I think God has us on. And yeah, I could just keep going. You keep directing this conversation though.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So you found fishing at a young age and that was reignited later on. And fishing, I would bet, is probably not for everybody. So
Yeah.
how would you, just at a higher level of pursuing rest and health and just being in that balance of life that you've talked about, what would be maybe just some pointers of like helping someone, like, okay, maybe they're wondering, okay, I don't want to go fishing, but I need that outlet. I need that thing that I can do with other people. Or how would you encourage people to take first steps towards figuring out what that might be for them?
Well, I think one of it is even just having a proper theology or a biblical perspective. Honestly, like I read Psalm 23 and I think about David saying, he leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. And so that I think there's just a sense of like, this is something God enjoys doing in our lives. He
Mm,
wants us to pursue something that is going to give us that like soul refreshment. And the other thing I was going to quote a verse here um, from First Timothy chapter 6, where Timothy, or Paul, when he's writing to Timothy, says, "As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy." And so there's a sense of like, when we pursue refreshment, I think it's something that God wants us to have in our life, and that it's a gift from Him. And so God loves to give good gifts to His children. Those might be just two things to kind of think about, just as you're kind of wrestling with this idea of refreshment. And then I think the other thing I'd encourage people is just to try stuff. Um, Spend time this year thinking through like, what are some things that I'd like to give to do and try. And I know some guys are really into board games, and some guys are really into and gals are into like just going hiking and photography. And there's really all kinds of different things, but it really comes down to like, I think not feeling the pressure to do what somebody else does, but to try to figure out what is the thing that is going to help you. And for you, that might be it might be something in the outdoors, and it for some people it might be not something in the outdoors.
yeah.
um I think um I'd like the idea of not projecting what I do onto somebody else, but really having them think through, I would really like to figure this out. And so maybe even talking to a pastor or a mentor, and asking them what they do, and maybe just trying to even figure out like, what are some of the things I've enjoyed when I was younger in my life that I might want to continue to pursue. Um, and then to not think it's silly to do something that maybe somebody else might kind of chuckle at. I don't know. I mean, people, there's all kinds of things that people would enjoy. Scrapbooking and um, you know um, I don't know, I was just thinking about some things that might be a little bit out of the kind of uh, the ordinary. But music is another one. Like I started playing guitar and kind of reigniting some of my music stuff. I'm not really a musician, but like maybe there's people out there that kind of put that on the back burner that would be good for them to pick it back up again.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Those are great thoughts, and I think
Helpful.
really
Okay.
good. It's a good starting place too. And I love that it's maybe don't go right to. I like thinking about like why am I doing something rather than just going to do something, and the remembering like, oh, why am I seeking refreshment? Like God wants to give me refreshment.
Right.
That's just having that as our frame of thought rather than just trying to get to the what. We want to know the why first. So I'm glad. I love that you framed it that way.
And I think the other thing about this, again, this isn't my philosophy of how I think about ministry and life, is that sometimes a really driven missionary could be a little um, off-putting to to somebody that we're trying to connect with, that's really outside of the church community. Um, and so you know having other passions can help us to think about, how do we maybe have some new on-roads again for connection with people. And and I think that's helped me. I
Yeah.
really feel like I was super just super focused and zealous. And I still think I have that in me. It's kind of a fuller perspective, I think
Yeah.
now. And with our culture shifting and becoming more secular, I think it's been more helpful, I think, as I've grown and developed over the last couple decades to think about life in a different kind of in a fuller perspective, even my faith in a fuller perspective than just this, monolithic kind of way of thinking. So I will give a shout out. I know one of my pastors in at U of I when I was there, Wayne Wager, was a huge help to me in this area, and I really think Wayne kind of shaped the way I think about life. He helped me to kind of go from thinking about things more just in a black and white perspective to seeing color and having a little bit more of like a again, just kind of that fuller feel and perspective in my life. And I really do think that's affected my ability to communicate the gospel and live the gospel out in my life too. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just imagining how that even applies to fishing, right? Like if fishing were black and white, you wouldn't have a lot of good fishermen, right? If it's just put the bait in the water, pull fish out, right? There's color there, there's nuance, there's reading the bottom of the lake bed. So it seems like
Right.
it would probably add to your fishing as well.
It really does. I mean, it's like it really the whole thought process for me is I want to be as much of a thinker as possible. So I mean, I do spend time reading things and developing, as much data as I can get about what I'm doing and how I'm trying to help other people become successful with that. And I do some writing. I mentioned with you earlier, I'm working on some video stuff. You know, I do take pictures as well. I mean, it's a lot of it is from an iPhone, but now I'm kind of going to take that to the next level too with some video and some photography stuff. And um, it's just really fun. I just think I feel very blessed by God to be
Yeah.
able to do this with some of my time. And I don't know, one day I might do this even more, kind of in a greater capacity one day when I maybe transition from one part of vocation to another. And I just think this is something that I love sharing with people.
Yeah, that's very clear. That's very clear. So
Thanks.
what is something what is an area just in this whole conversation, you can kind of pick a spot, but that you're seeking to grow in right now, maybe in rest and fishing, or what's something you feel like the Lord is leading you in right now?
Hmm. Well, I do think part of it is actually sharing what we're doing with other people. And I said that I do get a real kick out of that. And I think, when you are able to take what you've been given and turn around and help somebody else, I mean, that's the picture that we have of the gospel too, right? We've received from God and we want to turn around and give to other people. It's kind of that same mentality. So like I get people that call me, and I mean, and it is related a little bit to my side hustle, but a lot of times like other people that are guides, they, in my estimation, they don't always actually answer the phone, but I do my best if I can, if I'm not in the middle of something, to answer my phone. I'll talk to people. I'll give them a lot of the thoughts and ideas that I have. It's not, a lot of people are real secretive about what they do. I don't give away everything, but I do try to help people be successful, and I take a lot of pleasure in that. And so I think that's something I'm really learning about is it's not just about how do I catch fish, but how can I make you successful? And so that's one thing I've been learning a lot about. I spent a lot of time this year guiding and not actually fishing when I guide. And so when somebody catches a fish and they're new to this whole arena, I think that is the most fun thing I do, because I've somehow made them successful and they didn't think they could be successful.
Yeah.
Um, and then another thing I do geek out about a little bit right now is just learning about how the fish are interacting with what I'm doing. So I mentioned some of this technology stuff. I know this is where people are going to be like, whoa, but Garmin, obviously is this well-known company. They make incredible everything. And they are one of the companies that I do some partnership stuff with. And I use this electronics that they have that's called Panoptix Live Scope. And what it is it's a live real-time image of what's in front of the boat. So it projects a beam out in front of the boat anywhere between like 60 and 100 feet. And I can actually see how the fish are interacting with what I'm doing. So I can see them follow my bait in. I can see them react to my bait. I can see everything that's on the within the water column and on the bottom of the lake. So I can see fish swimming. You can see it's not like a video, but it's more like an image, like an ultrasound. Like if you were to look at a baby inside the uterus, you can see the fish swimming, you can see their tails. And so if you wanted to just check that out, go ahead and look at like Garmin Panoptix Live Scope, and you'll just see some awesome stuff on YouTube. And so we're trying to capture some of that stuff. We had so many things that, again, I wish I had just recorded them this summer, because I learned a lot actually from using this technology, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. I love your enthusiasm towards pursuing these different things. It's infectious. So I didn't think of asking this one, but what's your policy on collegiate staffers calling up to go on a little fishing date with you?
Let's do it. I
All
mean,
right.
I again, a lot of it I kind of reserve the certain times of the year when things slow down with our kind of the general flow of ministry. A lot of times it's after school finishes up in the spring, or if you get a chance to come out to LT, that's another place I've really tried to take the pastors out to come out and fish with them. And Neil Kring's been a guy that's fished a lot with me. I've had a chance to take Gens out. I've had a chance to take, again, most of the people that, have been somehow involved with our program. And it's been really fun, yeah. So, hit me up and we'll try to figure something out.
All right, because I imagine there's a lot of people that would just be like, you know what, I might want to try fishing. It seems like you'd be a good guy to lead them into at least trying it.
Yeah, I think there's probably some intimidation, Mike, too, when you do something that you're not very good at, or you're like, is somebody going to make fun of me? And it's like, no, I mean, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
What we do is like, we teach people how to do stuff that they've never done before. So from just even the basics of learning how to cast, and like, what is the cadence that you're trying to get when like whatever kind of lure we're using, or artificial or whatever. And then, there's just a lot that goes into it. But after you kind of get a little bit of that figured out, people make quite a bit of progress. I get people on my boat who are newbies, and then by the end of the time, they're actually, thanks. They're actually really, they feel like they've accomplished something, like, and they've developed some confidence and all that. So, so that's pretty neat. Yeah. If you want, you can go to my Instagram, which is freshwater_therapy, and just kind of see a little bit of what we do. And my YouTube channel that we're just starting is Freshwater Therapy. And I think I mentioned that, but that's the name and the brand we've kind of developed. It's built around the idea that God has created water to bring refreshment into our lives. And so, I use that as kind of a platform. And again, most of the conversations that we have at some point, it's going to come back to that. And, I don't mean it to be like a bait and switch or something like that. It's just like, this is who we are. And I mean, this is, so, yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that feels like a good place just to kind of wrap up
Great.
sort of how this goes. Well, just thanks for that. And just thanks for sharing. I feel encouraged to pursue
Good.
just more of like refreshment in my own life. Like, oh
Good.
man, what is that thing that maybe I set down that I could like maybe pick up or step into? And so thanks for that, Joe. And I might be giving you a holler on
Give me a
going out
jingle.
fishing
Yeah.
too.
Hey, I was going to say, I just really appreciate you guys even pursuing me on this.
Yeah.
when I saw Becky's email, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do this because,
Yeah.
I think this is what helps people, again, to pursue like a positive outlet. And I know sometimes what we haven't got into this during this conversation, but I think some of the reasons people fail and fall in ministry is because they don't have that, and they might pursue an unhealthy or an unrighteous outlet, and so we want to keep people in the game as much as possible, and so having some of these things, I think, is a safeguard for a life in
Yeah.
ministry as well.
Absolutely. Well,
So
before I let you go, we have just four
yeah,
quick hitter questions.
go ahead.
So here we go. So these don't have to be related to what we talked about, but just
That's fine.
answer quickly. So who or what is inspiring you right now?
I'm reading the Psalms and I'm loving that. I've been just kind of digesting that, and I think about that because the ups and downs of the emotions of life, and I just think about that with this COVID season that we're in. And then I'm reading a book by Eric Metaxas. It's a biography on Martin Luther's life. It's been unbelievably awesome to read, and just to see all that went on in that church history period, and also just who Martin Luther was. It's been really encouraging.
All right. Who is someone else in collegiate that we should talk to, and what should we talk to them about?
I actually mentioned Wayne Wager. I know he's not a part of Collegiate at this point, but he was a guy that I would really encourage us to have a conversation with, because Wayne really imparted a lot of good things. I think another person is Greg Veneta. Greg,
Mm,
he really pursued even just having regular time with God, and I think that was another significant thing that has kept me in the game, and many other people, is just being able to have that pursuit of God as part of our life.
thanks for that. Yeah. Okay. So what is one song or artist that you would recommend right now?
Oh my gosh. I love Thomas Rhett. Anything Thomas Rhett, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen. There's a song that's out there right now. Hey, thank you. I'm on a video right now. Let me see. I'll be right out. There's a band called Little Big Town that sings the song "The Wine, the Beer, and the Whiskey," and I'm not really advocating that, but I just think it's so creatively written. So
Okay. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good. That's good. All right. And lastly, what is something that you think everyone should try at least one time?
I was thinking, actually, it's kind of crazy, but it would be worth hiring a guide sometime and going out, like, and it's a little bit of an expense involved with it, but it's so fun, and you get to see something that you've never really gotten a chance to probably see before. You're going to use their boat, so all the responsibilities on them, all the headaches are on them. I always tell people the best decision people make is to hire me, because I have to deal with the boat and the parakeet, and you just get to have fun. And then when it's all said and done, I still have to deal with all the mess. So yeah,
There you go. From an insider himself.
that's right.
So yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks so much for being a
Yeah,
part of
man.
this collegiate conversation. And yeah, and to anyone who watches or listens to this, thanks for joining.